welcome our friends on the Personal PR show, our lovely personal PR community. But then secondly, and most importantly, I would love to welcome Angela to our show today. And it's such an honor to have you here because you have so much wisdom to share. I know that today we are focusing on only one topic. I mean, you're going to bring, of course, so many nuances to this topic, but it's like just scratching the surface considering all of the expertise that you have. But yeah, welcome, Angela. Welcome to the Personal PR show. How are you?
I'm really good, and it's an absolute honour. I don't take it lightly when we speak into somebody's community. We're speaking so many different aspects. So whilst you're getting to see me for the first time and maybe some of the work I do, I want to just let you know that how much I honour you being here, and it is a real privilege to share my work with you.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's lovely to have you here. By the way, as usual, we have Chris Rich here as well. He's the most loyal member of our community. He comes to every single live. Chris Rich, I will say hi and bye, and I will bring Angela into the spotlight. Hi and bye, just for now. Sorry, and then of course we'll bring you back to the spotlight when you ask your questions. So Angela, get ready for Chris Rich's questions, because sometimes they can be probing. Sometimes even I am scared of his questions. Okay, that's the intro that I wanted to give. Okay, no worries. Most of the times I'm joking. Most of the times. Okay, cool. Hi and bye, Chris Rich. Let's bring Angela into the spotlight, and I will come into the spotlight as well, Angela, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Come on.
Thank you. Okay. So it's the two of us in the spotlight right now. Thank you so much for making it and to our show. Angela, would you like to maybe introduce yourself just so we know who you are, where you're from, before we actually get into today's topic?
Happy to. So my name is Angela Durrant. I am based in the UK. I live in Wales, but I was born in a place called Birmingham. And my background is that I actually was born into a very famous UK entertaining family. They're not famous now, as it were, but you can look up on YouTube. If you look up the entertainer George Formby, that's F-O-R-M-B-Y, you will see a very famous ukulele player who was a film star from the 30s to about the 60s. And he was my uncle, and I grew up watching incredible people in the spotlight all of my childhood. That led on to me wanting to obviously go into more of a stage career. And I studied voice and music and sound engineering, and really went in the direction of music for probably about 10, 15 years in lots of different capacities, sang with orchestra, recording studio, loads of different things. What really was interesting to me, though, is that sometimes your real gifts are running side by side and you don't always see them. You can grow up into what everybody thinks is a really sort of clear linear path for you. But there was a business side to me that I didn't realise was going to come out later on in my life. And that started, actually, it really was kick-started after I had my daughter in my sort of middle 30s. I had a massive car crash. And in that car crash, I had a really massive life transforming experience where you just look at your own life and you go, what do you really want to do now with your life? You know, I had decided to have a family, and I opened a voice studio back in 2008. And I put all of my efforts into helping and training others to really discover and find their own physical voice. And on the back of that, people started to come to me that were in business about presentations and speaking, and I included that into things. And that really led me quite organically into corporate training with some high-level leaders in the Ministry of Defence and the NHS in the UK, and some really large sort of bodies. And when I look back, there was so much of that I couldn't have put on a vision board and planned. So I think there is so many of the hidden gifts that we can allow into our personal spotlight, and they will lead us on an incredible journey. During the pandemic, again, it was that self-reflection and went, where am I going next? And the idea of really helping solopreneurs get more visible, understand visibility, understand positioning in the marketplace, really make success of being a solopreneur, started to sort of pique its interest in me. So I started the Visible Club, and we're actually just coming up to 2 years old, going strong, bringing more people on. And that really is about helping solopreneurs create that sustainable business for themselves, particularly if they've run an offline business and they're now having to navigate being online and deal with all of that tech and everything else at the same time. So it's been a very eclectic journey up to now, really, that has had lots of twists and turns, and hopefully a bit of wisdom along the way, really. So I wanted to just highlight to people that it is not always a kind of stratospheric success, as it were. There's often some hidden things in life that are probably trying to sort of get our attention, and if we listen to them, they lead us on very interesting journeys.
Angela, I'm speechless. I didn't know all of these things. Oh my God. Yes. And you just mentioned the right word to describe your journey. Definitely eclectic.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I think especially as your show is around PR and personal branding, I grew up in that spotlight and actually came away from that spotlight and struggled with that spotlight a little bit to come back in and to understand the nuance behind it. So it's quite an interesting perspective to have on it all, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you come from spotlight, then you left the spotlight a little bit, and now you're actually helping people get into the spotlight themselves, right? You're helping entrepreneurs do that. Yes, this is amazing. And of course, as you just mentioned, personal branding plays a huge role in this. Wow, I'm really speechless. So there's so many things that you do. Like when we discussed as well what we wanted to talk about, when we defined what we wanted to talk about on the personal PR show, you gave me so many items that you can talk about, like so many speeches that you have, so many angles. And it was difficult to choose one. Thank you for letting me choose one. We chose the topic of impact for today, right? So speak in a way that people want to listen to you. And of course, based on what you've just told us about your career and the life and the turns that it took and the various phases that you had and all of these, eclectic dimension that you cultivated over the years, that totally makes sense, that you know how to make an impact, like to impact people, to influence people, and to talk in a way that people want to listen to you.
That's really interesting. I think you start when you have to go through several different pivots, and I think people will in business going through their business life, they will have to pivot several times. Sometimes you start with an idea and it doesn't work out and you have to pivot and you have to work out what the marketplace actually wants from you. Then learning how to actually be influential and create an impact and stand out, those are two of the most important skills to have.
Totally, especially in personal branding, thought leadership, absolutely, and entrepreneurship as well today. Wow. So what should we know about influence?
Oh, so I think the first place I'm going to start is that there is a big difference between influence versus influencer. So very much in our social media culture that we didn't have 15 years ago in the way that we've got now. The speed of things is quite phenomenal. We have the rise of the influencer. Now, we've always had it, but we've got it slightly differently. So if I just first of all just unpack influencer so that people can know the difference, because I think a lot of people genuinely go, I couldn't be like that. I don't want to be like that. And we've got to understand the difference. So influencer is maybe somebody, it could be somebody that has cultivated a social media channel, and that now that they have got companies coming to them to promote their products, etc., because they've become a personality. It happens on TV when you have reality TV shows and those people suddenly become a personality or a celebrity. So whether that in the past that used to be confined to royalty or actors or people that were on the biggest screen of film, and it still is, as it were, those people can, when they're fronting an advert campaign or they're put in front of something, people tend to trust them because they've seen them a lot in a particular role. So they are classed as an influencer. In other words, they can, by their mere presence, potentially influence people to buy a product. You take Michael Jordan, the sportsman, or the new sports people that suddenly have got sponsorship deals with Nike or whatever it is, then suddenly you will see them sporting the attire and they're sponsored by these people, because the idea is that we look up to influencers and we want to wear what the influencers are wearing. Now, that is influencer. And if somebody really wants to go in that direction, then feel free, go for it. But many people starting off in business want to have a self-employed business. They want to, do well. They want to create an income for themselves. And they realize that at the start, nobody knows about them. Nobody's sponsoring them. Nobody cares. And we've got to try and make some level of impact, as it were, on our surrounding networks. And that's why networks are so important, and growing your relationships with people, because it's those relationships that bring you in front of other opportunities, and that gives you the option then to influence people to your opinion, to the work you do. We're still responding to faces, body language, and voices even quicker than we respond to posts, etc. So things like this, the opportunity to come on and share your work live, is a fundamental importance, because I could write 1 million posts and you may never see it. But if you're in Jessica's group and you're seeing me, or you happen to scroll past, that ability to suddenly come into contact with me, my opinions, my work, might just give you the opportunity to see, feel and touch me in an invisible way. And you might go, I'll check her out. That's interesting. Oh, that was valuable. Oh, that was helpful. So as small business owners, or as people who are starting off, solopreneurs, small micro businesses, you do have the opportunity to really influence. But the most important thing is your ability to communicate the value that you bring through your work is a vital component, which is why it's different than influencer. Oh, I've lost your audio.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you so much for illustrating the difference between an influencer and to have influence. Absolutely. It's something that a lot of people still get wrong. I noticed that as well, right? Yeah, so when we talk about influence, right? A lot of people, because we deal with this on a daily basis, of course, in personal PR, of course. A lot of people say, yes, but no, I don't want to become an influencer. And I mean, you don't have to. You can if you want, but you don't have to. You can still have influence without becoming an influencer. So this distinction was really, really precious at this stage, and especially at this stage of our conversation, before we really get into the topic of influence. Thank you, Angela. And so if we dive deep into the topic of influence, what is it that we should know first? Let's say, what is the first few concepts that we have to understand and internalize?
Well, it kind of leads me back to something that I did in 2014. I was looking at people that I was working with. That could be singers, it could be speakers at the time, musicians, before I was really working in the business coaching environment. And I asked myself a question. And I think if everybody asks this question of themselves, you'll start to see where the gaps are for yourself. So I asked the question, if I put two people next to each other and they pretty much were neck and neck in, what they could deliver, why would we pay attention to one person over another? What would it be that drew our attention towards listening deeper into one person's work or stories or things that they're sharing or videos, whatever it is? Why would we go in that direction? Why would we be drawn? Why would we be influenced or persuaded in our mind to actually pay more attention to this person over that person? And that is the key. Because influence is around perception, and it's around people's attention. That is the most precious commodity out there at the minute, is somebody's attention, which is why you get all sorts of manner of things, saying, you know, your first headline gives you 5 seconds of people's attention and your next one gives you another 5 seconds. So you get more and more what I call day glow kind of headlines out there. And many people wonder what to do with it. But I looked at something more fundamental than that. And I think, why do we pay attention to one person? In other words, why is one person feeling more influential? And it has nothing to do with extrovertism or introvertism. You could put the Dalai Lama and you could put Tony Robbins next to each other, and they would both be influential in different ways. They would both draw your attention. So when I looked at that, and I sort of reverse engineered it, because I was working with many people over the years to help position them into a place of influence so that they could pass their auditions, get the place, you know, whatever it was, get the job, and all of those different things. I had to create a level of influence so that people were seen as the person that they wanted over somebody else. So it got me thinking. And we talked about this, but I boiled it down in the end to 7 areas. One, just to keep it sort of simple. There was lots of different things, but when I kind of pulled it all together, there were 7 areas that I could see that when people embodied working on these 7 areas, so it's not a step by step, you don't start at one and suddenly get to the other. Imagine something like a wheel where you've got different sort of sections and spokes, a bit like the sort of wheel of life that NLP does. And if you put these 7 areas as 7 spokes in a wheel, and you rate yourself on these 7 different areas, then you can start to look at where the bits that you're really great in and the bits that you're slightly lower in. This, you can start to actually make a difference to your otherwise what we're doing is sometimes just working on the wrong thing. So these are the 7 areas that I boiled down that actually made a difference to what people paid attention to. And I just happened to make it into the acronym visible. So I'll unpack them for you, just made it a bit more marketable. So the first one, because I'm all about voice as well, in metaphorical and physical, was vocal confidence. Now, vocal confidence can mean everything from your physical voice that people are listening to. Have you ever listened to a voice that grates on you and you can't listen to for more than a couple of minutes, as it were? We don't want to listen to boring voices or irritating voices or aggressive voices. We can't listen to them. There's something in the tone, underlying tone. So vocal confidence covers everything from your tone of voice to your ability and your language to communicate the value of what you're saying. So the ability to express it verbally is absolutely vital in why we pay attention to one person over another. The second one was the other part of the coin of this for us as humans. So our voice is so unique and inherent to us. It's very much our own identity. And the second part is your presence, or what I call your irresistible presence. That is who you are being and how you are showing up. Have you ever been in a room with somebody that you just can't quite, you feel a bit intimidated by, or you walk into a room and 2 people have just been arguing and you can just feel the atmosphere between these 2 people, even though there's no more arguments going on. And you go, well, hang on a minute, nobody's actually speaking. What am I feeling? You're feeling energy. You're feeling the human energy that we all have to actually radiate and represent our thinking processes out into the world. So which is why when we've got somebody that's either stuck in their own insecurity or quite the opposite, thinks they're the bee's knees, we have a reaction energetically to these people. We either get turned on by them or we get turned off by them. So, you know, I might remind you of your mother-in-law. You might hate that. You might look and go, she's not my cup of tea at all. That's not a problem. What's most a problem is when we are scared to be our real selves for fear of what people are actually going to think of us. But your presence is important because 93% of the communication equation in influence happens non-verbally. So that's your body language, your tone of voice, And then when the words line up with that, we start to pay attention to what that person has to say. We go, this person's got something. They're saying it better or more clearly, or I like the feel of that person. So you are your greatest asset at the end of the day. You can put all of the tools and the tactics and the everything on the end of it, and they will be like gloves on the hand. They will be a representative of you, and so they should be. But you have to be the heartbeat. You have to be the soul and the heart of whatever it is coming out of you. You are your message, basically. Yeah. So that vocal confidence, that irresistible presence is absolutely vital. Do you want to come in there before I carry on, or do you want me to just go through the lot?
Oh my God, yes. I'm taking notes in the meantime, by the way, because as I said, there's 7. Okay, I have the acronym in mind, but I'm still going to miss a few pieces. It could be. So I'm writing everything down. So I am on track. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I think Chris is on track as well. Yes, Chris Rich, if we have any questions, maybe we can keep it for the end, right? We can take notes in the meantime.
I wait for the end. That makes sense. Right. Keep the flow and tell us.
I'm just going to teach you it all and then tell me. I'll just do a big teaching on it, and then you can tell me what you want. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So the next part of this is speaking your truth. And this is what leads to, this is the authentic part. This is the bit, even Chris, that you were sort of engaging around in the beginning of your question, which is around that heart of creativity, the heart of what makes us us and what we actually bring. So speaking your truth. So many people used to come to me and they said, somebody told me to shut up. So, and there is a big difference between just verbalizing everything for the sheer sake of it, as it were. But it's really vital that we get truthful with what is our personal story and our personal journey, and realize that that in itself is an influence and a motivation to somebody that is going through a bit of that journey that you have come through. Everybody has a message. Everybody has, they could be in a part of their journey that they have overcome, and somebody else needs that hopeful encouragement that they can actually come to that point themselves. And then the people that you're looking at, that you aspire to, they can be the next motivation on your own personal journey. That's why maybe I just expressed that personal journey in the odd way that I did, eclectically, because when we look at everybody else's life on perfect social media, everybody's posting their highlights and their glow lights, aren't they? Nobody's posting, you know, nobody's really posting what it's like to wake up on a Monday morning and go, I can't remember what it feels like to be happy. What do I do with this business? How do I do this? What am I going to do with the money? Nobody's posting that level of insecurity. But a timely word, this is the importance of your visibility, your voice, your presence, because you don't know what you're going to say that actually is just the thing that somebody needs to hear in that moment. You're not responsible almost for the outcome of it. You're responsible to be a conduit and a deliverer. And that's what I knew from being a stage performer. When I watched those stage performers, their job was to just deliver the act or the entertainment or the message or whatever it is. Their job was to play their part. And when they played their part fully, everything came alive with it. So that's this, it's so vital for you to actually tap in and start to go, I need to speak what's important to me. So if people are thinking, well, I don't know what my truth is, I'm going, of course you do. You know, like if I were to ask you, what are your pet hates? What are the things that you know to be true, that if somebody told you black was white, you would go, you can call it what you like, I know it's not that. Those things that are inherent to you in your journey, you know what you know, what you know, that forms your truth. You can form your message, you can form your personal story around that, you can form your personal branding around that. That is what people will see you as authentic and be influenced by. Moving from speaking your truth into the more practical, which is where I say include a system. So people want to know 3 things in the marketplace in order to actually buy from us, to be influenced by us. They want to know that, number 1, we're the real deal. So when we're dealing with our voice, our presence and our truth, we're conveying that. They also want to know that we are relevant to them. So if we can actually show them we've got a relevant process to them, we can actually lead them through something that we've done the work, as it were. We've come out with something that people can go, well, if I worked with this person, then they can, you know, take me through to the other side. Or if it's a product, more of a product-based idea, is that there is a reason for that thing and a why, something tangible that we can actually, you know, it has a practical use to it. So this is where including a system comes in. So for people that are more coaches, consultants, service-based professionals, who I tend to work with, they need to actually form that message into a signature system, just in the way that I did with Visible, that conveys everything that they are and what they can bring to the table. That stops them being seen as a commodity. That starts to become influential. Nobody else can talk about Visible in the acronym that I have created. It's unique to me and to my work. When we create, or when you create your own relevant process, nobody can touch you on it. It's your unique influence in the world. That really helps you to show up consistently. I know this stuff in my bones. I don't even need to sit there writing a talk about it. I've been talking about this since 2014. It's who I am now. It's what I represent for people. Moving on from including a system, we have to understand the marketplace, and celebrities and advertisers understand the marketplace, which is why you get that influencer feel. Like, you're not going to get Michael, you know, you're not going to get, I don't know, a really great sportsman sort of sporting something to do with punk rock. It just, they, you know, unless there's a real obvious connection to it, it's not relevant to it. So this leaning into the audience means, this L part of Visible, leaning into the audience, means that you have got your listening ear into the marketplace. One of the things I love teaching people is what I call the message matrix, and people innocently fail here because they get a passion for what they want to do. They get a product or a service even that they want to deliver. And then they actually haven't found a relevant group of people that are willing and have a problem that they are willing to solve or willing to pay for that thing. And unless we actually put this matrix together, that ability to lean into the audience isn't there. You will find that no marketing in the world will sell something that somebody doesn't want to buy. Now, I learned this idea of leaning into the audience from watching comedians as a child on the stage. When you've got 20 seconds to win over that audience, you bet you they're leaning into that audience. You bet you they're feeling the energy of what's going on. They start with those jokes. They work out what's working and what isn't working, and they pivot and they adjust very, very quickly, which is why I used to say that comedians have it down, because you cannot survive unless you become present as a comedian and you're leaning into the audience. It will be a miserable time for all involved. So you can do a lot of social listening. You can do a lot of understanding. There's not enough research. When I take my clients on and I take them through the journey of putting this message together and what is going to be their signature system and how they're going to speak about it in talks and presentations, one of the biggest things that I have to get them to do to start with is I have to get them to go and research and talk to people and ask them questions that are going to give us the information of what people actually are willing to pay for and want to buy. So it's absolutely vital. And sometimes we're so scared of breaking that fourth wall. We used to call it the fourth wall. You've got the two sides of the theatre and you've got the back wall, and the fourth wall is the footlights, that invisible wall between you and the audience. I know that with the advent of technology, the fear of actually being or talking to people can almost keep you behind the screen, but this can be the gateway, like it is even for me sharing with you today. This can be the gateway, the door that opens you to new audiences. So it's absolutely vital that you overcome your insecurity and you remove that fourth wall and you start speaking to people and finding out how you can lean into the people that need and would benefit most from the work that you've got, and find ways of then communicating with them so they see the value. This is where influence is getting practical. And then the final part of one of these, I missed the B out. I missed the B in stage savvy. So we've got vocal confidence, we've got irresistible presence, we've got speaking your truth, we've got including a system. You whip back to B. B is being stage savvy. Being stage savvy in the past, if we'd have had Dale Carnegie, the master public speaker, he'd have, you know, he was talking about your platform speaking. But these days, this is your platform. Zoom is your platform. Podcasts are your platform, videos are your platform, you know, live Zooms, group calls, Facebook groups, these are your public speaking platforms. And if we actually see that these, if we look at just the simple techniques, and they can be very simple about how you show up on a podcast, on a live, how you, even though I've got a Zoom in front of me, I'm talking to you, and there's a lovely green dot right in the middle of my iMac computer. And if I look at it, I'm looking at you. And if by chance I look at Jessica on my screen, you're going to see me looking at Jessica rather at you. So there's some stage tips that actually make you stage savvy, and you can speak directly to people and form that influential connection. So being stage savvy and getting in and getting yourself out of your comfort zone into different mediums is going to give you more confidence, more competence, and then that grows and grows and grows. Then we obviously had our leaning into the audience, and our final one is E. E is earn as you learn. For all of my perfectionist friends in the audience here, who want to feel as if you haven't got it perfect, you daren't take a step out of the doorway, I want to encourage you to take the final step in this visible, which is earn as you learn. Now, unfortunately, many people flip that round and they become eternal learners. They buy too many courses, they get stuck at the tech, they get stuck at their niche or their avatar, and they take themselves out of the game, and they say, until I've got all of my ducks lined up, until I've got everything perfect, I can't get out there, I can't share what I'm about, nobody will be interested in me, I will feel shameful or humiliated. And I want to go away with that, because actually, if you take an earn as you learn approach, which means that you go ask people, you know, ask for opportunity, and then find yourself in a conversation and ask for the business and ask why somebody says no and ask for a referral. And when you take the word ask and then you start earning from that in terms of opportunity and conversation and cash flow, you are going to learn. You are going to do the best learning you've ever had in your life, because you're going to do real-time learning in the world with real people, and you will learn very quickly how you need to communicate and how you need to position things in order to be influential with those type of people. So if any of those 7 sort of areas, if there's a couple of those that you go, do you know what, I haven't spent a lot of time on that area, or I never thought about it like that, then all we're doing is we might be missing a little bit of opportunity, because we are not able to be as influential as we possibly could be. And all you have to do to start being more influential is look at the ones that are a little bit less. You know, it might be that you go, okay, I don't think I'm very stage savvy, or I'm really stuck in the learning stage and I'm always watching, but I'm not necessarily doing and implementing things. Then just look at those and go, your next job is to actually slightly bring up those things into a bit of balance. So you don't need to stride ahead with the things that you're already strong with. You're already strong with those, and you can, you know, you're going to really do well with those. Bring up the other ones just a little bit, and you'll suddenly find that your influence is starting to grow. You'll be breaking all of those barriers that keep you stuck and hold you back. And you will be actually suddenly finding that people are asking for your opinion. And that means that you start to be truly influential. And it won't feel like a big celebrity. It doesn't have to. You'll still, you know, at lunchtime, walk the dog or whatever you're going to do. But what it will show up with, it will show up in your business, your relationships, your cash flow, your message, and ultimately your own confidence.
Angela, this has been amazing. Before we get into the whole picture, I would like to tell you that Anna Clara just wrote here, I am an eternal learner. So
don't feel bad, but you know what? It's time to swap that around and start to actually earn from that learning, as it were. So yes, I do, you know, it's a common thing. But you know, don't stay stuck in that learning. Do it as you need it. Just, somebody said to me, just in time rather than just in case learning.
That's so cool. Absolutely. I'll write this down as well. So, Angela, by the way, Anna Clara, you can start, you know, be like doing more by joining us on Zoom, for example, and asking Angela a question live, right? You still have 15 minutes to join us. So
absolutely.
Right, exactly. Okay, Angela. Oh my God, I have been taking notes. Thank God, because this way I didn't lose anything, didn't miss anything. And this is all amazing. I resonate with every single item that you listed and so beautifully and clearly explained. Maybe a couple of things that I wrote down, like I jotted down in terms of comments as well. I love when you talked about speaking your truth, which of course leads us to the topic of authenticity. And you highlighted how this is super important for our personal brand, right? So I love that. And another thing that I really, really loved is include a system. So basically create your signature system and your framework and so on, because at the end of the day, this is your intellectual property, right? So you can't really protect from let's say an IP standpoint, you can't, intellectual property standpoint, you can't really protect, let's say, an idea, but you can protect the expression of a certain idea, right? Which leads us into the legal field as well. Absolutely. And of course, you can't trademark an idea. You can trademark basically the expression of a certain idea, or copyright, put a copyright on that. So I love this as well. And yes, of course, the comments that I'm making are in line with personal branding and thought leadership, which is all about intellectual property. Oh my God, I love this so much. I also have questions, but I would also like to grant our Chris Rich a little bit of the spotlight too. So Angela, if you agree, I'm going to welcome.
Oh yeah, please do.
Chris Rich into the spotlight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, come Chris Rich, come to the spotlight, join us please, and tell us what your question is. I sometimes, as I told you, Angela, I sometimes get scared of Chris Rich's questions because they could be probing at times. So let's see what we come up with.
Go for it. I love challenging questions. Hit me with it, Chris.
Okay. The first question is referring to your information that is a common thing. Everybody knows that in your youth, childhood, or also later in your professional life, business environment, situations come up when someone tells someone to shut up, to not behave as they would like to behave. I've experienced that a lot. And now I have a daughter who is turning 4 years old soon. And about 1 year ago, I had such of these moments where it was a bit difficult. And then I thought, well, just let it out. Yeah. Be who you want to be at the moment. Go into this resistance of 9 levels red. And it was maybe the wrong place, the wrong time in the late evening when we came back from an event. It was in the train station and someone called the police. And then I told the police officer, oh, I'm not sure if I have everything under control. And then that was really a funny evening in the end. But that's just from my experiences. My question is, when I'm a father and I realize whenever I say, here is a boundary for my child, I destroy something somehow. And I don't want to destroy her uniqueness and her energy to explore the world. On the other side, I just realize our society and all the rules we need to consider when you don't learn a little bit what would be an appropriate behavior, you can also struggle your head quite heavily at a later point in time. So this balance to find out how much freedom to give to a child, a teenager, an employee, a colleague, a friend, a partner, and where to say, here it hurts me or other people, or it's too much. We need to see how we can find a way live together and to be reasonable together. So from your experience, what are your advices regarding specifically the child education challenge?
Oh, that's a meaty one, isn't it? Right, so having a 15-year-old, I've got a little bit, I've got just a couple of years on you, Chris, because I've gone through the toddler stage, you know, where my daughter has, you know, sort of literally sat, you know, put herself belly first on the floor in one of the supermarkets and had a complete tantrum, you know. I've been through those stages. And I think, you know, I think most of the time, particularly at those areas, every child, every human, they're trying, think about it, we come onto the planet and we've got to kind of learn the ropes, haven't we? We come onto the planet unable to fend for ourselves, absolutely dependent on these other people to care for us and to, you know, to nurture us and to grow us. And most of the time, we have no idea that we're going to come up against invisible boundaries all the time. And these invisible boundaries are going to be things like what are called invisible society rules. Like if you were a Victorian, you know, if you were sort of a Victorian, you would have to, and you were a lady, you wouldn't actually been able to have a dress above your ankles. That would have been considered absolutely not the right thing to do. So you can see, even as society changes, our rules relax as to what etiquette is, what we're allowed, what society says we can and can't do. There's a more fundamental piece going on in Iran at the minute with the you know, with women cutting their hair. They're going, we do not want this society boundary anymore around us. So I think that you have to make the difference between, there are things that are always changing in society and people will push that boundary, and people that have pushed those boundaries have had immense courage, and sometimes they've pushed the boundaries and they didn't even realize they pushed the boundaries, i.e. Rosa Parks in America, i.e. Martin Luther King, i.e. the girl who just had her hijab in the wrong direction, you know, in the wrong way, and suddenly has sparked up. Who is to know? You know, we are not to know our destiny sometimes as to what part we play in the movement of those rules in society. But let's bring it back down into fundamentally your own kids and your children and bringing up children, because there's going to be people here doing that while they're trying to sort of do their business. This is the approach I took with my daughter, because I got it wrong when she was about 5 years old. Of course, my husband and I are both musicians. So, of course, we also recognised that my daughter was incredibly musical. And we wanted her to have, you know, musical education. So we pushed her down the road, me pushed her down the road, playing the piano and then the violin.
Okay.
And I could see straight away that she did not have the love of this in the way that I had it. We started to have the battle, okay? The battles were starting. Now, here's the interesting side to this. How, first of all, I tried influencing her, as any parent does, if we're talking about influence, with treats and charts and all sorts of manner of stuff that they tell you is good for influencing. I found none of it worked. And then I sat back, none of it worked, okay? Some of it might have worked, but none of it worked, okay? No, it doesn't work with my puppy and it never worked with my daughter. I sat back, and other than sort of main boundaries, which is like, do not have a screaming hissy fit and the piano lesson, I started to look back and go, who is this child? Who is this human being? Who is this mini person that already at 5 has a feeling for her preferences? How could I help her to become who she is meant to be in the world, whatever that is? Who is this person? And I started to do the thing that parents don't do. I started to listen at a deeper level. Kind of wanted to listen, as I do to my own clients now. Who is this person? What is she made up of? What does she like? What does she not like? Give you an example of little boundaries and going in that direction. My daughter was always dancing around the house. So I thought, well, you know, parents go, let's take her to dance lessons. And the only criteria I had was, I said, look, some of these steps might be a bit challenging to pick up, but you want to try some dance lessons. So first of all, we tried ballet. She was bored, couldn't stand it. Then we actually, like, we did a couple of, about 4 or 5 weeks, couldn't stand it. And I could just tell, like, this is a non-starter. You could just feel it in her energy. She just didn't want to do it. Took her to ballroom and Latin dancing, because she was dancing. We have Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing with the Stars or anything that you might have something similar. She took her to this dance, and I said, look, we have to give it 12 weeks. Here's the boundary line. We are going to give it 12 weeks. If after 12 weeks you don't like it, we'll stop, but let's give it a good shot. She never stopped after day one. She found herself into a competitive ballroom dancer. So it was an example for me of going in the direction of where she was starting to feel herself, but at the same time having a parental boundary that wasn't just sort of flying with the wind at going, oh, we'll try it 1 week and then we'll try this another week and then we'll try another week. So there was just bringing some level of but there was a short container. Think about this instead of, it works with work, in projects. We have small projects and we try it out. The first person I ever worked with was a PR consultant. When I first started in 2008, I hired a PR consultant to help me in 2008. And she gave me the same advice. She said, do something for 90 days, do not stop doing it, and then only assess it after that time to see what worked and what didn't and tweak accordingly. It was such phenomenal advice. So I would say to you, even now, even in the middle of lockdown, when I thought my daughter was going to go into dance, she looked at me and she said, no, I think I want to do medicine. And so we had some criteria behind it. If you want to do medicine, then your science grades are going to have to go up. Is that something you're prepared to do? And she literally took herself from a C or a D to an A and a B in her sciences. So it was this ability to kind of say, let's just feel, if you want to try this, no problem. We're not going to put the rules around you, but we are going to say, it's like, we have to test the water, and then there's going to be some responsibility on the other end as she got older to see, if you really want to do it, then you have to rise and fall on the things that you do in relation to that. That stops me being the parent who's nagging the child to do this and that and the other, because should she want to go into medicine, I said, here's the issue, here's what medicine is. This is the competition behind medicine. These are the opportunities. You go have a research, you go flirt with it, you go play with it, you go have some fun and see where it takes you. And that was the key for me, is not putting the rules around too soon. It's like dating. It's like, it's like meeting somebody at a networking meeting. No, you go dating, you go sit at the bar. And the next minute, you're not saying, come home with me. It's kind of like, there's a little bit of time in between where you get to flirt, where you get to see whether this thing is going to be right for you. That's the same advice I have for people, even in business and communication and different areas that they're trying, is that you have to try it. And that's why I said before, like, to my perfectionist friends, just lay it down, because actually sometimes you don't know until you try it. You don't know until you get a little bit further into the water whether you're going to like to even try swimming. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. It's very personal things, but I hope that helps.
I could listen to you for hours. It's really amazing, your experience. Not sure. I just asked the second question. I don't expect the full answer, but cool. I just want to...
I'll try to do a quick one, because I can go on.
Yeah, I realized we started in the beginning talking...
Yeah, if you want to... Sorry, Chris Rich. If we want, we can extend by 10 minutes. If you can stay a little bit.
You want to do.
Yeah, I will.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Go for it.
Because no other meeting next, then it's just lunch is waiting for us here in Switzerland.
Beautiful.
Good. So we started in the very beginning talking about artistic interests, the core center of my work, my community I'm building, for the goal that we see the human beings as who they really are as a whole. And my central question at the moment is, how can I better inspire people to share these parts from them in our Facebook group and in the open database on schy.ch? What inspiring elements need to be included in the thought leadership conversation. When I talk to someone for 1 hour and then I do it with them together, then it works. Sometimes I get the information in private messages and then I say, yeah, exactly this information is that what we would like to collect and publish, that this awareness about the importance of artistic interest is so important. But before we don't have at least 1,000 registrations on this platform, this website is more or less useless. Also, when we do a better structure and pictures and everything around it. So we need people sharing their ideas there and bringing it to the structure that we can start to search, and you find in your town people listening to the same music style and you even don't know these people. That's the reason.
Okay, so loads in there. So you've kind of touched on two things here. Three things. You've touched on how do you inspire them. You've touched on how they become almost like the super fans that actually start to sort of share and talk about this. And then you've kind of touched on the bigger aspect of almost like the visibility or the marketing side of that. So let me just kind of take those three in order, because I know nobody asks, like, if you ever seen, like, nobody asks like one question. It's like, let me just throw the whole cheesecake at you, as it were, because like this is like, how do I do it all? How do I do it all? So the first thing I would say is on your level of influencing them, like, how do I influence them more to start to become more raving super fans, as it were? Mm-hmm. Start with two things in mind, okay? Two sides of the same coin here. First of all, start with the question, an acronym, what's in it for me? Okay? This is leaning into your audience. Everybody, because if they think this is your baby, this is a thing that's really that you want to bring out into the world, but it might not be their baby. They might be on the platform, they might be interested, they might be a member, but they are not. It's not necessarily their baby. They're a partaker of it. So by kind of looking what's in it for them, you will actually find out there's two types of people. There's it all in this world. There's going to be the takers and the givers. Okay, I have some clients that are, you know, they absolutely love the work I do, but they particularly wouldn't want to shout out about it all over social media because they don't particularly want to admit that they've done the work. They like the result of the work, but they don't necessarily want to admit that they've done the work with you, as it were. You know, they just want to look good at the end of it. And then I've got other clients that are always passing me referrals. They are just so happy to be getting the results that they're getting. They're super sharers. So I would certainly identify, first of all, the people in your community that are more vocal to start with, okay? And ask them, how could I help you? What would make it a real no-brainer for you to start sharing this platform with more people? What would be an incentive for you? How could I help you to achieve what you want so that you can help me achieve what I want? So start with the other person in mind. You know, what's in it for them? That at the end of the day is the essence of all sales, you know, and all service. Now, there might be people that are just nervous. They don't know how to, you know, they might be for two types of things. They might not feel comfortable. They might not even feel comfortable sharing. So I'd say, first of all, create psychological safety, which is why when you have private Facebook groups and you have the ability to have small groups, etc., or to give people small opportunities to share or to increase their confidence, that's vital. Make it psychologically safe for people. I've made these mistakes in the past where, in our sense of encouraging people, we take them too far too quickly. And so we have to give people the chance to step into new things step by step at their own pace. Some people will go faster than others. And so we sometimes put a pressure on ourselves or a pressure on other people that we really, again, one of those invisible rules that it should be done at an arbitrary date in an arbitrary way with an arbitrary goal behind it. If you're working with your people, it will happen because you're leaning into them and you're thinking about how you can serve them and you're thinking about how you can help them emerge and you're giving them even helpful ways to communicate what it is that you want to say about them. I will help them. I will say to to people, I say, Can you share this? I'll give you the email template. I'll share with you exactly what I want you to say. Are you happy to do that? Or are you happy to do it? People say, I'm happy to do it here, but I don't feel comfortable doing it on video. And it's like, be okay with where people are, because you will take them with you. There will be some that go faster than others. That's just human nature. Okay. Start to look for the next small exposures. The next sort of just the next thing. Sometimes we've got this idea of going out there, okay, as if there's this thing called out there. It's like, I've heard this all the time. People go, I need to just get myself out there more, okay, right? This phrase, I need to get myself out there more. And I'm like, there's no such thing as out there. There's just the next person that you're connected to, or the thing that you can do next, or the community that's sort of in the next town or the next city. So out there for me is like, you know, Jessica, we're in completely different countries to each other. But the out there was, there wasn't some random out there. There was a mutual connection that put us both together and said, you two would really get on and need to have a conversation. So I want to just destroy this myth that there's something called out there, okay? You know, because there is something called outer space. You'd have to leave Earth for that. And the only other out there is sometimes we have to leave our houses. Sometimes we have to leave our computers. But sometimes we have to leave our thinking that there's an out there. And how that's helpful with ourselves, with other people, is that we can ask them, who are you connected to? Is there podcasts? Are you, have you got people that you email? Have you got, what work do you do? Who are you connected to? It's the same idea behind the Facebook algorithm, that we are 6 degrees of separation from the Pope idea. Is that, you know, there was this experiment done to see if you could actually, just through connections, get to somebody that almost seemed untouchable. And the answer is virtually yes. So this is, you're in a business of, if we want to be in the business of being in business, whatever that is, if we want to get our message out, our products, our services out, then I think we all have to understand that potentially via the idea of technology, but not because of it, we are in a relationship business. We have to connect with relationships. We have to make relationships. And that's where, maybe to round it off, that's where how you be, how you show up, how you represent yourself, the impression that you want to make with people, you can choose. You know, you can't choose how people see you, but you can choose how you want to show up and represent yourself. That's absolutely vital, because if you do that, then you are going to find the connections that lead you to the next thing. So that brings me round to that final bit. It's like, how do I get this whole thing out there? Via the medium of technology, because never in history have we probably had this much opportunity, but it's also much noisier as well, which is why it's so important to actually form your fans, as it were, feed into them, grow them, nurture them, let them feel almost like this 1,000 loyal true fans, as it were, and then empower them to actually be the next level message that you've got. When you empower them with your message enough, they will go out and start to automatically share that. That is influence. That is the pebble dropped, of the one pebble of you dropped into the water, and the ripple effect that you could not create on your own will start to happen. Sometimes not even in our own lifetime. I'll just give you a very quick example. In the UK, there was a landscape gardener, architect, back in the 1800s, called Capability Brown. Okay. And Capability Brown had vision. So these big stately homes that you might have seen in the UK, they hired him, many of them hired him, the people that owned them, the very rich, wealthy people that owned him, to create all of these landscapes for them to show off their wealth. But Capability Brown had a different vision. He mapped out these landscapes in a way that nobody had ever thought before. And it was so vast that when he planted them, it was just mud. When he finished planting them, it was just mud. And he planted for these gardens to mature in 100 years after his death. So we are sometimes going to see our influence in this life through the work of our marketing, through the work of our business, through the work of the opportunities we get, and the people that we speak to. We'll get that opportunity. We'll see some of those. But I really marvel at the people that have vision, that actually their vision cannot even, it's going to start to harvest, as it were, 100 years after they've died. When we go around, if you go and look up, so go and Google Capability Brown, when you look at some of those landscapes now, he could never have known all the millions of people that were walking and marveling and appreciative of that one person's vision 200 years ago, that we are still benefiting now. So if you're talking about change or wanting a global change, then you have to realize that maybe on our own, it feels insignificant. But if you plant like when is the best time to plant a forest? Yesterday. If you plant your vision and you keep working that vision, you may or may not get to see elements of it in your lifetime, but you will never, ever know the impact and the influence that it can potentially have far on that you ever even can, conceptualized it as. So my encouragement is to sow into the people that are in your community, value them, help them, serve them, and then empower them to actually start to go out and share the message and use the medium of technology to do so. And I think if we understood that about communities, we'd be less arrogant about the communities that we have as leaders of those communities, and we'd have a more humility and more understanding that people have a choice on where they go these days. They do not have to stay. We have to work hard to create our influence and our impact, and it can be easily destroyed if we do not have the character to keep it. So it's really worth actually thinking, what am I trying to create? And then pour your heart and soul into it, because that is something worthy of dreaming for, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I realize you have so much experience. I can learn so much from you. I don't know how I can thank.
That's fine. You asked me a question. I just
you just answered from
flowed with the answer.
Yeah. I'm speechless.
I've lived a long time.
but I see we have
140
now. But it was amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the questions. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope it's brought you some value.
It's very valuable. Thank you so much.
Loads of value. Chris, you and I have to watch this recording a few times, and everybody should watch this recording a few times and take notes. Here is
my question, Jessica. Why not make parts from these conversations that are really messaging some key elements of insights of I mean, we talk for 1 hour, but people might like a 3-minute extract that would create awareness about your group. So just in case one day there is time or additional people willing to work on that, it could be a new YouTube channel, it could be another promotion area where we have shorts or short videos, and then we just have my question and Angela answering it for 2-3 minutes or 10 minutes. And but we need to agree all on that, if that makes sense, and who wants to do all this work. But you have so much great content. It's just a pity not to share that with the entire world for the highly relevant moments.
There's your super fan, Jessica, isn't it?
Exactly. Thank you, Angela. Yes, and thank you, Chris Rich, as well for this input. This is, of course, great input. I'll take it back to the team, right? To Martina and to Chair and to the next
Maybe
person
someone
that we
would like to start on that. I can also help you with this work if you like. And then we see where we bring this entire organization.
There you go. There's your super fan.
Because in the end, it's all about the combination and the connection. And I just see my organization not as a closed organization. One of the reasons that I'm here is it's actually fitting into my entire concept, and it helps you. And why not just do it? And then we both grow together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Collaboration, the way to go. Right. I'm sure, Jessica, you need to wrap it up.
Exactly. Yeah, because we've gone over already 15 minutes nearly. But Chris Rich, thank you so much. I'll come back to that.
Thanks a lot.
Of
Okay.
course,
Yeah, let's talk
bilaterally
on another
with the
time.
team
Yeah.
as well. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Yes. And Angela, a little comment that I have on the amazing answer that you've just given to Chris Rich is that yeah, the whole vision, the whole point about having a vision that maybe you won't be able to see come to fruition immediately, but it will serve further generations, like future generations. I really love this. I love the idea of creating a movement, right? It's not just maybe a community, but a community with a mission, which would be like a movement, of course. And then the whole idea of legacy as well, right? Because you're leaving something after once you have already, let's say, done what you had to do on this planet and you left this dimension, then you can still kind of exist through the mission and legacy that you created and the movement. I love all of this. This is amazing. The example of Capability Brown, if you don't mind, I will also use this example while I'm talking about vision and so on.
You totally can. You totally can. Feel free.
You, Angela, we are approaching the end of this wonderful conversation, and I have one more question, which is actually not even a proper question, but let's see what your answer is. What is something that I haven't asked you yet that I should have asked you?
Where can they find out more information about my work?
Oh, actually, that's a great question.
There we go. You cannot leave that one on the table.
Oh, and how can our friends find you?
They can find me at www.thevisibleclub.com. Nice and simple, www.thevisibleclub.com. There's 2 resources on there for free straight away. So we talked about that nature of discovering your voice. So there's a free 7-day mini course on there called Discovering Your Voice, and that is, Chris, right about discovering your creativity and tapping into it. And there, for those who are wanting to get their message out into the world, there is a free 3-part series on there called You Love Your Message. It's right on the homepage. You can just scroll down and sign up and just get it straight free, and that is talking all about the message matrix, which I mentioned earlier on, and that will help you get your message sorted and out into the world.
Oh, this is amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for mentioning the link. And I'll be sure to include the link in the post that will be created automatically after this live line is over. Wow. Angela, this has been I know that I've only been scratching the surface. So the question is, would you like to come back to our show the next few months?
I would love to. And I'm really looking forward to interviewing you very shortly for our summit on how to create powerful sales conversations. So I look forward to being continually connected to you, Jessica.
Absolutely, definitely. I can't wait. It's going to be later this week, right? I really can't wait. And the peculiarity of this is that it's an audio summit. Never heard of an audio summit before. And it's an amazing idea. Well done. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, nice and simple. You can just listen on the go. Oh,
it's so convenient. Definitely. Okay, awesome. Yes. Awesome. So I will be sure also, of course, to let our friends here in the personal PR community, I will be sure to share your summit with them as well. So then we have even more listeners. And yes, I will just say maybe see you later this week, Angela. Maybe on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, see you later this week. I look forward to it.
Me too, absolutely. Thank you so much for the time you dedicated to us today, and especially all of the expertise that you shared. Right.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Take care.
And you. Bye, Angela.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.